Welcome back, everybody. It's the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. I'm joined, as always, by Pat Fitzmaurice at Fitz_FF on the Twitter machine. We're here to talk some tight ends today. We got some Scott Fishbowl drafts coming up. Like Fitzy, I know you are ready to rock that one. Premium tight end stuff. So we're going to talk some tight ends today, right, Fitzy?
That's right. Only fitting with the Scott Fishbowl drafts coming up and the emphasis on tight ends, since Scott Fish himself loves the tight end position, as does the guy we have here with us as our guest this week. Probably no one better to have on a tight end show than this guy. So I'm really excited to chop it up with him.
Andrew Cooper, the lead analyst, the NFL analyst over at Fantasy Alarm, your 2021 FSWA Football Writer of the Year. Coop, what is going on, man? You ready to talk some tight ends?
I love this topic, and I love hanging out with you guys. I'll tell you that what's funny is people will hit me up, and they'll be like, come on the show. And, I know you're probably tired of talking tight ends, so we'll talk something else. I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, that's my bread and butter. Like, why are you have me on, and we'll talk about the thing that I do the most research on, that I care about the most. And that is, obviously I don't have any leagues that are just tight ends, so I have research on every player. But this is one of the ones that I have a reputation to uphold. So, I'm proud to be on here talking tight ends with you two boys. Let's get to it.
Well, that is perfect. We're going to go over the top 24 in ECR in terms of dynasty rankings, talk about our differences, talk about where we're all different, where we all are the same, all that kind of good stuff. So let's get to it and start with the tight end number ones, 1 through 12. I will list them off, and then I'll tell you guys about the differences and similarities that we have in this group. The number one dynasty tight end, according to ECR, is Kyle Pitts. Number 2 is Mark Andrews. Number 3 is Travis Kelce. And we are all different on their rankings, which is a little surprising. TJ Hockenson comes in at number 4. Kittle is number 5. Dallas Goedert is 6. So your top half of tight end ones. Your bottom half, 7 to 12, is Pat Freiermuth, Dalton Kincaid, the rookie, David Njoku at 9, Darren Waller at 10, Greg Dulcich at 11, and Michael Mayer, another rookie, at 12. So, Coop, I want to start with you here because we are all different. We all have a different tight end one. I know the difference for Fitz and I is philosophy, because even in Dynasty, I work in a smaller window. I work in a 3-year window. Over the next 3 years, even if Kelce plays 1 year and retires, he might still be the best tight end of all these guys over the next 3 years because of how dominant he is. Led all tight ends in receiving yards by, I think it was 23 receptions, 424 yards, a bunch of touchdowns last year. So he's still great, but he's long in the tooth. So for Dynasty, I understand Pitts getting that, number 1 rank, number 1 in ECR. Most people are looking at long term, but you have Mark Andrews at number 1. I respect that. I really like Mark Andrews. I'm a Texas guy. He went to Oklahoma. I'm a Steelers fan. He's a Raven, but we did go to the same high school. So that's a little interesting factoid about Mark Andrews and I. But your thoughts on Mark Andrews and why is he at number 1 for Dynasty for you, Coop?
And honestly, for people out there, I have no problem with them ranking any one of those 3 guys number 1 based on the way you like to play, like you said. And for future reference with Travis Kelce, you don't need to throw any stats out. The argument for Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. That's the entire argument, right? So for me, I'm kind of like you. I play to win. I'm always, whenever I do a startup, I'm going to play to win. That's why my top 10, I start by saying, okay, who could finish top 5? And all those guys are going to go up towards the top. Who could finish top 5 this year? That's what I care most about, right? It's too hard to read the tea leaves any deeper. And just for everybody out there, to make it real quick, I have a simple system for Dynasty I use. It's called SORT. Start, opportunity, roster, talent. If you're playing to win now, you need to start opportunity. And sometimes at this position, guys that maybe aren't the most talented have the opportunity, and that's how they finish in the top, right? Look at Eric Ebron with Andrew Luck catching all those touchdowns, or Logan Thomas in 2020. So that's what I do. But again, on the bench, you want as many talented guys as possible, but you might have to wait a little bit. Dallas Goedert stuck behind Zach Ertz for 4 years. Delanie Walker stuck behind Vernon Davis for 100 years. I think it was 7 years, right, before he broke out. So you stash those guys. For me, Mark Andrews, right now, he just fits perfectly in between. the age apex for running back has us all over the place and feeling like guys turn 28, they're dead. But with tight end, that's kind of the age apex. Travis Kelce didn't have a 1,000-yard season until he was 27. Zach Ertz had one 1,000-yard season in his entire career when he was 28 years old, right? So the fact that Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews have already done that, and Andrews is hitting the age apex now, Kyle Pitts hasn't even hit it yet, that's what puts Andrews at 1, Pitts at 2, and Kelce at 3. But if you were the guy that's going out and drafting Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, then you should have Travis Kelce 1 because you're win now, right? So that's the fun part about Dynasty is that there's so
everybody has
many
different
layers.
strategies.
There's so many layers. Yeah.
It's not like redraft. Redraft is win this year and that's that. You can go many different ways. In Fitzy, you have Kyle Pitts at number 1. And look, it makes sense. And people complain about Kyle Pitts in his season last year. It's still very good, even though Atlanta wasn't throwing the ball at all. And, it's the previous season he had over 1,000 yards, just about getting in the end zone for him.
Yeah, and, Pitts had the injury last year. He had an abundance of uncatchable targets. But I do find it interesting with these 3 tight ends and how people sort them out. I think it tells you a lot about how people play Dynasty, how they rank these 3 players. Because I think you could make a case for ordering these guys in any different way. But it is kind of a Goldilocks and the 3 Bears situation with the bowls of porridge. And it's like, Travis Kelce has this impeccable production profile with virtually no blemishes on it, like durable. He's going to produce. He's got the best quarterback in the game throwing to him. But he's teetering kind of close to the age cliff here, and you don't know exactly how long you're going to get out of him. And, the actuarial tables really aren't on your side with Travis Kelce. Then you've got Pitts, who's got some short-term obstacles here. The, quarterback situation, the run heaviness of Arthur Smith and the Falcons offense. But he's this terrific young talent, and he's going to be in the league producing for another 10 years probably. And then you've got the hot porridge, the cold porridge, and then maybe Mark Andrews is just right because it's that balance. He's at, sort of peak age, so you don't have to worry about him tumbling over the age cliff. And, the production, not quite Kelce level, but still really, really good. And
I think you sum up the way a lot of fantasy gamers, the way we feel when you call Desmond Ridder an obstacle and Arthur Smith cold porridge. I think that's how we're all feeling right now with that team.
Unless you're a Bijan Robinson fan,
Unless you're a Bijan fan, yeah.
If you're looking
at
the passing game,
scorching hot, right?
Yeah. If you love Pitts in London, you hate Arthur Smith. That is for sure. Before we move on to more tight ends here, I got to tell you guys, if you want to win a free year of Fantasy Pros Premium, subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel and comment below on this video, because when you do, you can win a free FRW upgrade to Fantasy Pros Premium, whether you're looking for custom mock drafts, salary cap tools, or in-depth analysis of your fantasy performance. Fantasy Pros Premium has the tools to help you win. Unlock the most powerful fantasy tools in the industry. Don't want to wait for the giveaway? Sign up today over at fantasypros.com/premium and start playing smarter, not harder. And we're adding some stuff for premium subscribers pretty soon as well, Fitz, correct?
We are, Bugs. A lot of stages on Discord with the Fantasy Pros analysts. So, you can come on, pick our brains, ask us questions in the chat, come up and talk to us. We're all going to be doing the regular weekly stages pretty much from now until starting next week, right up until the start of the regular season. And then, we'll also be doing them during the regular season.
Coop, I want to ask you about TJ Hockenson. We all have him at 4. He seems, pretty consensus here behind those top 3. You also mentioned, I don't care if anybody has those top 3 guys ranked at 1. Is someone crazy to put Hockenson over those top 3? Is he closer to that top tier, or is he closer to the next tier in ECR, which, by the way, you can find over at Fantasy Pros. If you guys want to take a look at these ECRs and get them up to date, go to Fantasy Pros and check them out. But at 4, is he closer to that Pitts, Andrews, Kelce tier, or closer to the Kittle, Goddard, Pat Freiermuth tier?
So for me, he's closer to the second tier. But what you have to ask yourself is how you feel about Jordan Addison, because the the vast majority of tight ends that both finish at top 5 and offer consistency from week to week, which is a big thing. Like Evan Engram, he finished top 5, but he wasn't the most consistent and he wasn't a top 2 target on the team. So you got to look at it and say, okay, if I don't love Addison and I think TJ Hockenson can do what he did last year, which down the stretch, I mean, we're talking 8, 9, 10 targets a game, right? And Adam Thielen was the one that fell off a little bit during that stretch. Then you love him. But if you're in on Jordan Addison, it's kind of tough to be in on all 3 of these guys. The Vikings last year were actually the only team in the league, according to Pro Football Focus, that had 3 guys get over 100 targets. And during that span when Hawk was there, Adam Thielen wasn't really on a 100 target pace. That's the real problem there. That's the rub, is that it's very rare, even in a 17-game season, to have 3 guys get 100 targets. So that's the game we play here. If you love Jordan Addison, you might have to be out a little bit on Hawk. Me personally, I think Hawk can hold him off for 1 or 2 years at least. And that's why I got him here, man, because not many guys have that kind of opportunity with the volume that you're going to get with Kevin O'Connell and Kirk Cousins, right? Like that's Huck and Chuck at football over there, right?
It's funny. I just did a player debate over on ITL between Debro and I, where I had to take the Jordan Addison side. He took Drake London. And my main point was that the Vikings passed the ball 257 more times than the Falcons did. That's 15 more passes per game. And they just got rid of the best part of the running game in Dalvin Cook to pass more because they added Jordan Addison. So all 3 of these guys can work. It's just one of those guys is going to have a higher pace. I'm kind of more of an Addison guy. I do really like TJ Hockenson, though. Both these guys are tough. Fitz, what is it about him? And for you, is he closer to that top tier or is he closer to that secondary tier?
Secondary tier. Like, I didn't even really consider him, on the same plateau as those other dudes. But yeah, there is a lot to like. There are going to be a lot of targets. We talked about, the aggressive throwing of the Vikings, and I don't think that's going to change because probably not significant enough improvements on defense to keep them out of shootouts. I do think, we're going to see a lot of high point totals every week with the Vikings for the most part. It just seems like they're built to be a shootout team this year.
I got to ask you, Coop, are Fitz and I, we both are high on Kincaid and Michael Mayer, who come in here as, tight end 1s, ECR. You are at consensus with Kincaid at 8. You are significantly below consensus on Mayer. Is this more of a rookie tight end rule? I know tight end is the hardest position to translate from college to the NFL because you go from blocking guys that might be at used car dealerships in a week to blocking TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. And now you have to run up against Roquan Smith and stuff like that. And you have to body up Jalen Ramsey. Like, you have to face all of the hardest defenders in the league as a tight end. You got to block, you got to catch passes, you got to know how to chip, you got to know how to split. There's so much to do for a tight end. Is that just a general rule that you have for rookies, or is it, look, I like Kincaid, he's definitely a tight end 1, but Mayer is not that level of talent?
Yeah, so I don't like the general rules, right? So I don't like the idea that the people say, "Oh, 3rd-year breakout," right? I think that's a fool. Like you're trying to simplify a very complicated situation. I'm usually the one that has to pour cold water all over the rookie tight end. So I'm glad this year we have guys that actually get over a lot of those hurdles. The problem for rookie tight ends is that, especially for fantasy, so you take the blocking part out of it. Like let's just say that part's completely out of the equation. Or they are either good at blocking or they're just a strictly pass catching guy. First, you need to be the best pass catching tight end in that room. If you're Dallas Goedert joining a room with Zach Ertz, you're not going to get the slot job. You're going to be the inline guy. Same with Cole Kmet next to Jimmy Graham. So there's so many situations. Hayden Hurst. So it's like you run into that problem first. Then to actually have upside for fantasy, we talked about how you got to be a top 2 target on the team. So now if there's 2 or 3 wide receivers that are better at catching passes than you, you're already drawing dead. So for a rookie to walk onto an NFL team and be a top 2 target you better be Kyle Pitts, right? That's why we like Kyle Pitts. Evan Engram, he finished top 5 as a rookie, but Odell Beckham Jr. had to tear his knee up in week 4 for that to happen. The other guys that have done it, we have to go back to Jeremy Shockey and like Mike Ditka. So it just doesn't happen often. But this year, we get a golden opportunity with Dalton Kincaid, where I can say to myself, okay, Stephon Diggs, he's one. We're all nodding our heads because, you know, I would love for somebody to walk up in here and tell me somebody else is one, right? But at 2, the argument
maybe last year with Gabe Davis, they would have been
yeah, I would have loved
not
that
anymore.
Too.
Not
yeah,
after
exactly.
2022. Yeah,
we won that one. But so it's like now with Gabe Davis, that there's a debate to be had whether Dalton Kincaid operating out of the slot with Dawson Knox as the inline tight end, can he be a top 2 target on the team right away, or can he be next year? Right. And a guy like Kincaid, of course, over the long term, you also have to factor in the fact that Diggs is 30, right? And he's also complaining and jet setting off to Paris for Fashion Week. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into it for long term for Kincaid. But for short term, that's why I have him up here at 8 and you guys are willing to go 6 and 7, is because over the short term, he could actually be relevant this year. So I'm very much in on Dalton Kincaid.
What about Michael Mayer? What makes him low on that list?
Well, let's take the things that I just talked about there. I mean, first and foremost, he is a 2-way tight end. He could end up on the blocking side of the tree, which is brutal. Delaney Walker, Dallas Goedert, 2 guys ended up on the blocking side, had to fight their way. David Njoku, exactly. Austin Hooper is the exact guy that put him on that side, and now Austin Hooper is going to be there with Michael Mayer. But it's not even Austin Hooper we're worried about. Like Devontae Adams got 180 targets. He's there. They already had Hunter Renfrow, and they said, hey, we have Hunter Renfrow. How about second Hunter Renfrow? And brought in Jacoby Myers. Like, for me to like Michael Mayer over the short term, I've got to create some sort of narrative that he can get more targets than both Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow, and I can't do it right now. Not to mention, we thought he was going to be the slam dunk number 1 tight end, the 2-way tight end. Well, he didn't go first, and he didn't go second either. So for me, I'm just saying, hey, I would rather throw him on the back burner, let somebody else take him, and then wait for that window to start opening, and then you go and sneak in there and say, hey, let me trade for this guy. He's not doing a thing, you know?
Yeah, he feels way better than Austin Hooper because Austin Hooper has kind of been in the background and banged up recently, but Austin Hooper is a very experienced tight end and a very good pass catching tight end. So just stuck in some bad offenses recently. So let's go to the guys that we are all below consensus, and it's not by a wide margin here on either one of these guys. Pat Freiermuth, we're all below. He's ECR 7. Coop's got him at 10. Fitz and I have him at 8. David Njoku is ECR 9. Coop and I have him at 12. Fitz has him at 11. So we're all below consensus. We're not killing either one of these guys. It's just there are shots that we would rather take earlier. Do you have any worry about these guys, or is it just that, like, look, these are both talented guys, but I'd rather have some players above them? That's all.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the problem. If you could sit here and tell me that if it was like Pat Freiermuth and the wide receivers on the team were like, you know, Tyler Lockett or Keenan Allen, and they were 30 or 31 years old, and I could predict some sort of decline at some point, then yeah. But right now I look at it, we got Kenny Pickett, who last year only threw 7 touchdowns. Even juicing that number up, it's going to be hard for him to support 3 assets, right? So Deontay Johnson gets 140 targets no matter what. And then now it's George Pickens versus Pat Freiermuth. Now, there are some good stats in Freiermuth's favor. Red zone targets, huge. I also sat down and took every team, and I set the parameters to 3 minutes left in the second quarter, fourth quarter, or overtime to simulate two-minute drill. They call it the 2-minute drill, but the minute before the 2-minute warning is part of it, right? Like it should really be like the
around the 2-minute drill. Yeah.
Around exactly. Like you're using that as a timeout. So I looked that up. Pat Freiermuth not only had the most targets in those situations of any player, not tight end, any player, but the highest percentage of his team's targets, like 70%. So they leaned on him there. But at the end of the day, I sit here and say to myself, I think George Pickens is the guy ahead of him. If you think that Freiermuth is ahead of George Pickens, move him up. That's the beauty of this, is that like right now in June or July, nobody can be completely wrong, right? You just lean into your own opinions. I think you guys agree with me with where you have him ranked. Probably you have Pickens ahead in terms of targets. Fitz, how do you feel about
Fitz?
Pickens?
Does not. Fitz does not like Pickens. I can tell you that.
Move Freiermuth, Fitz. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I like
get a little crazy. Get crazy here, man.
So I'm barely below consensus on Freiermuth.
Yeah.
I do like him a lot, and I like the fact that he his average depth of targets got a little deeper. I think it spiked by 3 yards last year. His yards per target went up. Even though we saw the drop in touchdowns from 7 to 2 from his rookie year to his second year, I think all the other indicators were sort of positive for him. And I don't love that Pickett is his guy. And, there is some competition for targets with the wideouts and Najee. But I do think he's a pretty good player. And, I don't feel too bad if he's my starting tight end on a dynasty team.
Yeah, I don't. Freiermuth is still a good player. It's just the lack of, Najee didn't get all those targets either last year because he played half the season hurt. They added Darnell Washington as well. So as much as I love Pat, I feel like there's a little steam taken out of his sails or wind taken out of his sails here.
That's the hardest part about this position, though, right? We have to sit here and say we think these are good players. I sit here and say I think George Kittle is a good player, but the opportunity with a weird quarterback situation and Debo and Ayuk and CMC, that's why I get murdered on Twitter all the time, Fitz. I should probably just get off there because it's so hard. To the average person, it's in 280 characters. It's very difficult for me to say I think this guy is a tremendous football player, and I don't think he has the opportunity to be a good fantasy football player. It doesn't make sense to the casuals. That's why we have this show, right? And you guys have this show so you can explain what the hell's going on here, right? When I put it on Twitter, it's just San Francisco 49ers fans and their jean shorts are coming at me from every direction, dude.
Look, I'm not going to knock jean shorts. All right. I'm a Texas guy. I'm a Southern boy. All right.
This is what gets me in trouble every time, dude.
I don't hate the jorts, but I'm also not from Florida. I'm not going to wear them with socks and sandals. So
okay, that's fair. That's a fair place to draw the line.
We're going to move on down to the tight ends that are in tight end 2 according to ECR. But before we do, I got to tell you guys about Reality Sports Online. And by now, most of you have heard of Reality Sports Online, the powerful fantasy sports platform where our owners get to build and manage their fantasy team like an NFL general manager. But the question is, have you tried it? It's time to go see what all the buzz in the dynasty community is about. Free agency, multi-year contracts, a rookie draft, multi-team trades, franchise tags, contract extensions, first-round rookie options, automated contract and salary cap functionality, and much, much more. Think it sounds complicated? It is not. The best thing about Reality Sports Online Fantasy Front Office is that it doesn't take any more time than a standard league. It just requires more strategy. If you think you're among the fantasy elite, this is a platform to test your mettle. If you're still not sure, you can test out your general manager skills for free, FREE in a mock. If you like what you see, use promo code FantasyPros to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. Fantasy just got real over at realitysportsonline.com. Once again, you can check out all of these ECR rankings over at Fantasy Pros. So we dive into the tight end 2s, 13 through 24. At 13 is Evan Engram. 14 is Sam LaPorta, the rookie from Detroit. 15, Chigozeim Okonkwo from Tennessee. 16, Cole Kmet. 17, Dalton Schultz. 18, Trey McBride. 19 is Luke Musgrave, the rookie from Green Bay. 20, Juwan Johnson. 21 from Noah Fant. 22 is Jelani Woods. 23 is Mike Gesicki. And 24 is Gerald Everett. We have a lot of similarities. Let's start with some love here. We went hate early, I feel like, in the last bunch of tight ends. Let's go love. We're all higher than consensus on LaPorta and McBride, all three of us. So, Coop, tell me what it is. Why are we higher? Why should we be higher than consensus on LaPorta and McBride?
Yeah, and the more I think about some of these guys I have ahead, I might need to move LaPorta up to where you guys have him, because I love this guy LaPorta, man. Just from if we talk, forget the landing spot, this guy, his tape is electric. He broke 20 tackles as a senior. In the bowl game, he broke 6 on one play. Like this guy he's magic, right? I've been calling him Sam Teleporta because he can make guys miss like crazy, right? So he's super exciting. Then he goes to a team where they didn't go out and get a big split end, right? Because that's a huge thing for tight end success is getting the snaps at wide receiver. And our immediate thought is, well, we want the slot snaps, but Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Hunter Henry at times, these guys are lining all the way up wide and just being the split end and just wide receiver comes out of the game completely. Why can't Sam LaPorta do that with Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot and Jahmyr Gibbs doing whatever they're going to have him doing and Marvin Jones just being a wily veteran, but not really a target hog at this point, right? So yeah, Sam LaPorta could jump right away, man, especially with that situation.
Yeah, I love LaPorta, and I mean, Fitz, you know, you're a Big Ten guy. He did all of his action. Top 10 in receiving grade, top 10 in yards per route run among tight ends in college football last year for the 123rd ranked pass offense in Iowa, who couldn't do anything. Like 5 of the 8 teams below them were triple option teams. They had some disgusting QB play last year, and Jared Goff might be a middle of the pack QB in the NFL, Fitz, but for Sam LaPorta, he represents a tremendous upgrade from what he had at Iowa. So just get open for that guy, and LaPorta is going to be able to do some big damage quickly, right?
Yeah, so that Iowa offense was just like you had to see it to realize just how bad it was. And for LaPorta to be just, far and away the best guy in that offense and the one thing that worked in the Hawkeyes offense. So, yes, like I think he'll enjoy getting, being in a functional offense and getting targets from Jared Goff for all the grief Goff gets. He's a lot better than what LaPorta was dealing with in Iowa.
Yeah, I'll say one thing on that. There's something to be said about being the focal point of the offense and everyone knows it and still getting it done.
And versus still getting it done. Yeah.
Like Alabama, Cameron Latu is like the 8th option. That's why when you look at his tape, there's not really a lot of contested catches or man-to-man because nobody's watching him. But LaPorta was doing it as the dude.
Yeah, so. And what Coop was saying, by the way, about like how tough he is and how many tackles he breaks, like there is some George Kittle to Sam LaPorta's game. Like he's really fun to watch and he does not go down easily. Exactly.
Them Iowa boys.
I think Kittle's kind of a mentor to him too, I think. So, we would like to
Noah
see.
Fant's a letdown. I was so excited for Noah Fant. I thought he was better than Hockenson even, and he has been an absolute letdown. Maybe this is the year, but I don't think so. What about, speaking of guys where we know the ball is going to this guy and he still is great in college? Colorado State's Trey McBride was absolutely that guy. We're all higher on him because I think, he got stuck behind Zach Ertz. It's what Coop was talking about in the first part of it. You're not getting targets. I mean, Dallas Goedert, the same thing happened to him to start because he was behind Zach Ertz. And Trey McBride, while I think he's a stud, we all have him above ECR. He's just been behind Ertz, but now he has an opportunity to cement himself in this offense with Ertz missing, we assume, at least a little bit to start the season after tearing his knee in January.
Exactly. And it was just like with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz with the Eagles, where the game is that Ertz would miss. And this is why I actually moved Goddard up back in those days when Ertz finally did miss time, because I thought, I was like, if Goddard gets stuck playing in line, even with Ertz out, then we're going to be scared. But when Ertz got hurt, they moved Goddard into the slot and he was playing in that Ertz role, running more routes, getting more targets, blocking on fewer pass plays. Trey McBride, when Ertz went down, credit to him. He went out there and he played wide receiver for a ton of snaps. He had a game with 10 targets. I mean, how many times does a rookie tight end ever get 10 targets, right? He did get popped pretty bad by Marcus Jones in that Patriots game, but hey, it's everyone's got their welcome to the league moment.
That's right.
I'd say Trey McBride, he could have a chance to start right away. And he was getting those targets from the backup, from Colt McCoy. Clayton Tune, one of those guys going to start this year. And maybe they decide to dump it down to McBride. So yeah, I had to move him up a bit and we like the profile. And that's why for me, I look at where he's at, McBride, in the process and the window actually potentially being open now versus Michael Mayer, I just can't have the rookie ahead just right now, you know?
Yeah, especially when you're looking at a shorter window. I understand that for sure. Now, let's talk about a little bit of hate here. We're all below ECR on Engram and Everett. Fitz, when we get into this, it's 14, 15, and 16. We're not crazy low on Engram, any of us. Even I'm 3 spots off. I don't think I'm insane. And we just all have Gerald Everett as a tight end 3. I think a lot of that has to do with age. He's 29. He's got a lot of miles on him too for a 29-year-old. Gerald Everett does. So what is it about these guys that just put them a little bit below ECR for you, Fitzy?
There's no knocking what Engram did last year. Terrific year, but additional target competition with the arrival of Calvin Ridley, that's a big thing. The fact that, he's let us down before. He's had issues with drops. He's had issues with injuries. There have been more disappointing than fulfilling seasons with Evan Engram historically. So, I'm not that far below consensus on him, and neither are you guys really. So it's just that, it's hard to be really bullish on a guy who now probably is the third option at best in that offense, even though it's an ascending offense and even though he had pretty good chemistry with Trevor Lawrence last year. And then Everett. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
go ahead with Everett too. Please.
Yeah, I've seen some enthusiasm from him for him in redraft. I just can't buy it. I really think Everett's just a guy. And, I know he's playing in a good offense, but now that's a team that's got 3 pretty good wide receivers. So it's hard to see him staking out a significant target share. And it's hard to see him popping when he hasn't really popped in situations that were even more favorable for him as far as targets.
Yeah, it's funny with Everett. It's you're in LA, you're stuck behind, some big dogs in LA when that offense is really humming, obviously. And even when you weren't stuck behind the receivers, you're stuck behind Gurley getting 800 touches a year, right? And then he goes to Seattle and they call him a fancy tight end, and then they trade for Noah Fant. His career has been a little bumpy as well. But in terms of Evan Engram, Coop, they also drafted Brenton Strange in the 2nd round. So, his long-term future in Jacksonville doesn't seem to be there either. I believe he was signed by that Urban Meyer group as well. So, yes, he was great last year. He was. There's no doubt about that. But like Fitz said, Calvin coming in and Everett, I don't know. I think I'm just done with Everett hype.
Yeah, I think Engram made a bit of a mistake. His agent did, where a lot of guys are going with the void years and stuff to protect them from the franchise tag. And Engram got tagged, and he's not happy about it. How do I know that? Because I actually tweeted that Engram, I'm like, this guy plays slot. He's a big slot player, and he's a better blocker than a lot of slot guys, and he's going to get paid less than a lot of these slot guys are. And Evan Engram actually retweeted that. So he's out there searching his own name on there, and again, he's my
good.
baby.
Yeah.
So so that explains the Brenton Strange pick, because basically he's saying, well, I'm not going to be back next year. Now you got to pay me next year. So I think that's the plan, is they're going to let him walk. And for Dynasty, and this is what's so crazy about what we do, is that I've been a Evan Engram guy. Fitz, we talked about Evan Engram last year on this show, and we were in redraft at pick 20, he finished 5. But now I got to explain to my followers why, all last year we were doing victory laps and cartwheels. But this year, with the addition of Calvin Ridley, now you got to do that target totem pole over again. And where do you put Calvin Ridley? Is Calvin Ridley or Evan Engram? Because Christian Kirk is going to get his. He was so rock solid. He's going to get 100+ targets, right? So is Evan Engram or Calvin Ridley going to get more targets? And for me, I have to put Ridley ahead. I just think he's a better pass catcher. So it's a tough gig, right? And Gerald Everett, that one makes no sense to me. We're talking about a guy that only played more than 70% of the snaps twice. I don't know if it was conditioning or scheme or what, but he was a part-time player at times, even with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams missing games at different times. And now when I sit down and I say target pecking order, right? You have Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams, you have the rookie Quentin Johnston, which even if you're not going to say Quentin Johnston gets a bunch of targets, if one of those wide receivers gets hurt, now he slides right in there. Right?
If. What do you mean if? You
when
mean when?
one of those wide receivers gets hurt. But now they have a guy a little better than Josh Palmer. And here's the real rub. Austin Eckler is the guy that routinely gets 100 targets. He's gotten 120. So Austin Eckler might be ahead of Mike Williams, like everybody, right? So it's like, where does he fall in? 4 at best? Nightmare, dude. Like, put it this way, if the guy that drafts Gerald Everett is in Gerald Everett's fantasy relevant, it doesn't matter who gets Gerald Everett, because the guy that got Justin Herbert's going to win the league by 1 million, right? Like, if all those guys are relevant, whoever gets Herbert won. You're drafting like a handcuff. So Gerald Everett missed me with that for sure.
All right, so let's go to some individual love and hate here. Coop, you love Juwan Johnson. You hate Cole Kmet. Obviously, I'm using hyperbole here. You're just low on Kmet at 21. And then you have Juwan Johnson at where did Juwan Johnson go? You have him at 16, where his consensus is 20. And Fitz and I both have him at ECR. We're both higher on Kmet. What is it that you like about Juwan? What is it that you dislike about Kmet?
I'll start with the negative first, just because we want to end it on a positive note, right?
Sure.
So Cole Kmet, I liked him last year. I was pretty devastated when he started the season with back-to-back zeros, right? But he kind of bounced back with touchdowns and finished like tight end 8. But the problem you run into with Kmet is that not only is it a low volume offense, but you have a quarterback who's prone to run and not throw as much to his low A dot targets. We've seen that mathematically. I believe your own or Andrew Erickson, who is he's a friend of the program. He did a study on mobile quarterbacks dumping the ball down. They don't do it as much, not nearly as much. The bottom 3 quarterbacks in targeting the running back last year, the teams were the Eagles, the Bears, and the Ravens. So it is scary from that standpoint. The other is they added DJ Moore, and I kind of like Mooney. I even kind of like Chase Claypool. So last year was his opportunity to be a top 2 target on the team, or actually lead the team in targets, which he technically did with Darnell Mooney going down, and he didn't really flash much. That's why now I'm like, okay, things got worse for him, but we still like him. I'm a little scared there. Now on the flip side with Juwan Johnson, this is a converted wide receiver that's playing tight end. It's everything we asked for. Right? Like I was, you check my post history. Me and my followers were sending messages to Yahoo saying, this guy's a tight end, add tight end eligibility. Like, I was that annoying dude, like hitting up like Fantasy Cares. And they really are not Fantasy Cares. Fantasy Cares is Scott Fishbowl. You should hit them up and give them a bunch of money. But Yahoo Fantasy Cares is their like thing. And they're very good. They're very nice. And they did change it, but I was that annoying guy. But we got what we wanted. And my call to everybody out there, I actually like Michael Thomas. Real quick, yes or no? Are you guys yes in or no out on Michael Thomas?
I'm out. I just can't do it. Okay. I think I've drafted him too many times to be high on him.
Well, then here's the rub there, right? We like Chris Olave. If you're out on Michael Thomas, and so many people, as a guy who's in, so many people come to me and they say, oh, he's a bum, he's dust, he's going to get hurt. Okay, what are you doing about it? How are you arbitrating that situation? Do you like Rashid Shaheed, or maybe you like Juwan Johnson? Right, you do like him.
I like them both. Actually, I like them both. I like Juwan Johnson. Yeah,
right. So it's like the people out there, take your anger towards Michael Thomas and channel it into some trade offers for Juwan Johnson. And
my anger is to Adam Troutman. I thought that guy was going to work out
me too,
for so
man.
long, and that's why I wasn't in on Juwan Johnson. But yeah, I mean, now obviously
he was so good at Dayton, right?
I mean, does the arrival of Foster Moreau at all concern you? I mean, like, he did work with Carr before. Like, you could have that narrative.
Foster Moreau, you're right, and Foster Moreau, he's got that narrative. He's got the hard knocks. Like, that's what originally put him on the scene, and also we're all rooting for him. Like, him, John Mechie, James Conner, these guys are doing something amazing, getting beyond cancer, playing in the NFL. So we're all rooting for him. The problem is, I've seen Darren Waller get hurt a bunch of times, and I've seen wide receivers get hurt on the Raiders. I've seen wide receivers get kicked off the team. I've seen him go to jail, and Foster Moreau still has never had a 70-yard game, not one. Like, I've seen this guy start a lot of games, and I tell people, I say, point me at the Foster Moreau good game. Show me a Foster Moreau highlight. that's where everyone says, well, there's got to be something, and then they come back and they're like, yeah, I'm like, send me a clip, right? Send me the clip, right? And that's where I get them. But so for me, I just give me the guy who's a wide receiver. I think Foster Rose should have a solid inline role, play a bit, but I can't see. I'm going for upside. I want upside. That's what I want.
If you're looking for all of the angles, let me remind you guys to explore your team's potential with My Playbook's Dynasty Trade Analyzer at fantasypros.com/NFL/myplaybook. You can trust the rankings. Our tools factor in the ECR for every single trade that you would do. You can include rookie draft picks to get a comprehensive trade overview to see where they're ranked and rated against the players. You can get clear visual feedback on how trades can improve your team. Level up your dynasty league and game today at fantasypros.com/NFL/myplaybook. Fitzy, I got one for you. You are high man on Jelani Woods for all three of us. Not a bad guy to be high man on, especially when Shane Steichen comes out and says, this is the Dallas Goedert of the new look Colts offense. It's a good spot to be in. Guy is huge, very physically talented. What is it you love about Jelani Woods?
That's it, the trades, Boggs. Big and fast, and it's great to hear Steichen give him that sort of endorsement. And so, hopefully he can grow with Anthony Richardson, and that becomes a quality pitch and catch combo because, I'm kind of getting sick of the revolving door the Colts have been having at tight end for the last few years, like Mo Alley Cox and Colin Grant. Like, let's just get one guy. Let's run it back to the Dallas Clark era here with the Colts and have like one guy we can count on. But Bugs, we gotta ask Coop about Chigozeim Okonkwo because he's got him at 9, tight end 9, and I've got him at 13, and you've got him at tight end 19. So obviously, like, there is a level of enthusiasm for Coop here with Chig. That like I'm kind of there, and you're clearly not there, Boggs. But
yeah, look, for me, I'll just tell you guys, I have size and longevity concerns for Okonkwo because he is slighter of frame. He's going to be taking some big hits, and he's going to have some big usage over the next 2 years. It's funny because I have in my redraft rankings, I have Okonkwo high. Because this year it's Treylon Burks and nobody are your options among wide receivers for Tennessee. So Chig could be the leading target getter for this team. But long term, I do have a little concerns about his size and just Tennessee potentially drafting someone else that is more of an all around tight end that they would want to use more if Okonkwo doesn't hit this year. So I do think he has a pretty good ceiling. But I think the floor risk hurts me on Okonkwo a little bit. What is it about Chig that puts him as a tight end 1 for you, Coop?
Yeah. So for me, like in redraft, I think I have him at 8 or 7 or 8. Like I can't put him ahead of Waller and Kittle, but I got him right there. And this, I have him at 9. And I've never been afraid to get aggressive with this position, especially if I believe in the research that I've done. And
the depth of this position is pretty good right now.
Right. So we're just looking for guys that can potentially be that high end, rip the doors off guy. And I understand your concern for him size and weight wise, but the beauty is he played a ton of snaps at wide receiver, tons of snaps in the slot, and only blocked on 2% of his pass plays. It's when you're in the mix too much with your hand in the dirt and getting jumbled up, like with Jason Garrett making Evan Engram do that at, he's like 6'3", 234, running a 4.42, and he's like, yeah, get in there with the big
go
hogs.
Block Micah Parsons, right? Yeah,
and everyone's like, he's injury prone. Exactly, right? Like, go block Micah Parsons. That's literally what they were doing. Like, I'm like, Bryce Young, he's rocking Bryce Young. I'm like, what is going on? Like, so like if they use him properly, now we have a guy that when I look at, and I'm going to use this, I'm going to use some high end examples here. Look at Mark Andrews' rookie year. He had 35% snap share because they had Nick Boyle and Hayden Hurst. He only caught about 32 targets. But when you look at the usage, he was playing slot. He was blocking on only 1.7% of the pass plays. He was running decent 8-aught routes. His catch rate was good. His contested catch rate was good. Here's the thing with Chig. 35% of the snaps as a rookie behind Jeff Swaim and Austin Hooper, who are both gone. He caught 30-something passes. He caught 3 touchdowns, just like Mark Andrews. In every one of those stats, except for one, he was actually slightly better than Mark Andrews. He had, he had a better contested catch rate. He was better versus man-to-man. Basically the only stat that he wasn't better in was ADOT. Mark Andrews getting a little farther downfield, right? That's something that can change. But that was the one stat, right? And then we look over at the profile and we look at guys that if you're not going to get the targets, we need speed. That's how you get extra ADOT. That's how you get extra yak. He ran a 4.52. That's 95 percentile. That's George Kittle. He runs a 4.52. And Kittle is the only player in the league that has multiple 70-yard plays as a tight end. In fact, only 2 tight ends in the league currently have 3 plays in the same year of 40-plus yards. One of them is George Kittle. The other one was last year, Chigozeim Okonkwo, on 35% of the snaps. You take a guy like that with his profile, both in terms of physicality and his yards per route run, which again, higher than Mark Andrews, like 2.6, and you just sprinkle more snaps on there. That's how we get production. That's how we got the Mark Andrews breakout. And I'm in on the Chig breakout. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does pan out, it pans out in a big way. That's why I'm willing to make the bet. But I'll give you this on that one, Box. The floor is what you say it is. It 100% is what you say it is, where if they bring in other pass catchers. If they sign DeAndre Hopkins tomorrow, he's in huge trouble. Right. So that's the concern, that he ends up being like a Cameron Brate or Anthony Ferkser, who is just a smaller part-time tight end. But if they decide that this guy is going to be the slot wide receiver, that we can start a tight end in fantasy football, oh boy, I get all fired up just thinking about it.
This could be the worst QB situation in the NFL too, in Tennessee, with Tannehill, and Will Levis. I mean, look, Tannehill's still easily the best there, but if he starts to slip and they go to Levis or Malik Willis, who they seem to have already given up on, it might get real ugly. Let's do this to wrap it up here. Coop, are there any other tight ends below, the top 24 that you feel passionately about to bring up at the end of the show, either positively or negatively? We kind of looked for us before the show down to our top 40. Is there anyone from that group that you really, really like or really, really dislike?
Yeah, I'll throw the negativity out first. So, like I said, end on a positive note, right? Yeah. Dawson Knox. Before the show, you asked me, you're like, "Oh, you forgot Dawson Knox," and what I say?
You said I didn't forget him.
I didn't forget him. The thing with Dawson Knox is we talk about opportunity and how you need to seize that. He's been in the league for a while. Stephon Diggs was the guy. Gabe Davis kind of left the door open, man, right? Like, he wasn't the guy we thought he was going to be. That was Dawson Knox's opportunity to swoop in and be a top 2 target on the team in a high-powered offense and prove that he's that dude. And he didn't do it. And instead they went out and they drafted the newest version of Zach Ertz, which pushes him in line. Now he's going to be a guy that's just touchdown dependent, and they signed him to an extension. So if Dalton Kincaid is anything, now we're basically sitting here waiting for Dawson Knox's contract to run out so that he can leave. It's just like he's in such dead water that if you can trade him, but I don't know what we're waiting for. What do we need to happen? We need Dalton Kincaid to completely bust and Gabe Davis to just be okay, and then Knox to take a step forward. I mean, it's possible. It's just there's too many other options, right? So did you guys want to weigh on a Knox before I give my last guy?
Well, for Knox, I'll tell you what one thing is. I know that, and I forgot about this, Fitz, that hand injury from Knox last year, right? Like that wasn't like one hand double the size of the other hand because it was so swollen or whatever.
Like a Mickey Mouse hand.
Right? Yeah, it was crazy. So I that was factoring into why he didn't pick it up when Davis went down. Of course, or not even went down. Davis was just bad. So I'll give him a little leeway there. Also, looking at his contract, he is cuttable after 2024, which is still not great right now, which is why I have him as a tight end 3 at best. But they're not going to keep him on for, I think it's $12 million if he's not doing anything. Yeah, you can save 7.8 in 2025 and then 12 the following year by cutting him. So he'll be gone and off to a different opportunity, I believe, after the 2024 season anyway, which is a little light. But like you said, right now, Kincaid is their guy. They spent a first-round pick on him. The investment, it's not a one-for-one. I know our buddy Chris Harris would say it's a crutch argument. I understand it's not a one-for-one. But sometimes you read the tea leaves. So I understand the knock on Knox, no pun intended there, for real. Fitzy, you got anything on Dawson?
No, Coop covered it.
Yeah. Go to the next guy. Who we positive on, Coop?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you guys, where you have them, it's fair. You have them like 30, right? So it's like you're putting them in that range where it's like, it's just like that's where you put the guys who you're rooting for to get cut so they can get a fresh start. Of these later guys, one guy that I'm above ECR on, and I think Pat is as well, is Isaiah Likely. And what I loved about him is that it's kind of like the Trey McBride, where we got to see a brief window with a couple games there where he was the guy. And if you take I know it's such a small sample size, but if you take his usage in those games, it is exactly what they use Mark Andrews to do. In fact, I talk about pass blocking a lot because there's only been essentially, since I've been doing this, 3 players that blocked on more than 15% of their pass plays and finished top 5. And they were George Kittle, 2019 unicorn, Rob Gronkowski, super unicorn, and then Julius Thomas in a year that Peyton Manning threw 55 touchdown passes. So it doesn't happen, right? But if you sort by that stat, Isaiah Likely was number 1 in the entire league. He blocked on like 4 pass plays. They just put him in the slot. That's what he does. And if something happens,
are you trying to Yahoo to put him at wideout, by the way?
No, I don't want that. I don't no. Delete that part. We don't want that at all, dude. No. If Mike Gesicki gets franchise tagged as a tight end and doesn't fight it, then we're all safe. But yes, no, delete that part, Fox. I don't want that at all. Dude. I don't want that at all. We want wide receivers we could start at tight end. So that's what we want, right? And I'll add this part. Anyone out there, after you finish listening to this pod, go look up what Isaiah Likely showed up to camp looking like this year. He's got the afro. He's got this mustache. If that doesn't get you fired up for Isaiah Likely, I don't know what will, man. You saw it, Fitz? I see you nodding your head. Yeah, he's looking ready to rock and roll.
Fitz, anybody else in this range that you want to throw some shade on or give some love to here?
Not really. Coop covered Isaiah Likely. I was happy to see that. A little more disappointed that Coop didn't have Jake Ferguson in his top 40, but that's okay. We're not going to throw shade at our guest for that. I just want I want to circle back real quick and just mention a guy who was in our tight end 2 range. And I was glad to see that Coop was also kind of high on Mike Gesicki relative to ECR. I just think, here's a guy still one of the more athletic tight ends in the league. And it was really weird that the Dolphins franchised him only to basically cut his snaps in half last year. That was really strange. But now he's reunited with Bill O'Brien, his college coach at Penn State. And, the last time Bill O'Brien was calling plays for the Patriots, not saying we're going to see a repeat of this, but, I think the tight ends there combined for like 2,300 receiving yards and 24 touchdowns. Granted,
those was Gronk.
Granted, Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki are not Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, but, I think it kind of showed maybe that tight end's kind of an important deal in the Bill O'Brien offense.
Yes, you pointed out it's kind of interesting with the Dolphins. Like there was clearly a disconnect between the GM and the coach there because they've franchise tagged Gesicki, they signed Cedric Wilson, they signed Chase Edmonds, and Mike McDaniel was just like, nah, I'm all set with those guys, right? But yeah, I mean, Gesicki, let's play the game. Early on in your rankings and your drafts, you say, why? Why do I love these guys? Why do I love Chig? Why do I love Mark Andrews? Later on, we start saying, why not? Right? Why can't Mike Gesicki? So after Juju, who's the second target on that team?
Right.
We don't even know if it's going to be Juju, but it could be Mike Gesicki.
He's banged up. Yeah, it could be Mike Gesicki. It could be Bourne. It could be Parker. But they're in the Hopkins sweepstakes as well. So
right, exactly.
So it makes it tougher to rank him right now. But I understand the love and the skill is there. It just seems like he always gets under the skin of whatever coaching staff. He doesn't do something, and then Durham Smythe ends up leading his team in snaps. And he's talented, but in terms of tight ends in the NFL, he's middle of the line. He should not be getting snaps over Gesicki, and he does because he does the little things, which is why Gesicki annoys me with that stuff. You don't know where he stands in the coaching staff from week to week, but as Fitz pointed out, back with Bill O'Brien, probably a good spot to be for him.
he needs the right scheme. That's 100% the situation. Like with Adam Gase had him blocking on 17% of his pass plays. Like he finished tight end 50 something. The very next year, Gase. Oh my, Gase is like the tight end devil. Like even Julius Thomas blocked on in that year that the Julius Thomas year, he was blocking on like 20% of his pass plays. It was just Peyton Manning brute forced him into tight end 5 or whatever it was, right? Yeah. But so Gase had him blocking 17%. Next year, Brian Flores and Chan Gailey. Chan Gailey was, he had Tony Gonzalez running the second most slot snaps in the league behind only Hines Ward. He had Eric Decker as the big slot. Like he basically said, you're going to be Eric Decker. And that's how he finished at tight end 6. And then Mike McDaniel comes in and he goes, no, I need a 2A tight end, so you're not going to play. So you got to hope that this team, they're looking at it and saying, they're looking at it and saying, we're going to put you in the slot. And Mike Gesicki, as a free agent, could have gone anywhere, and he picked this spot. And there's a beat writer named Alex Barth for the Patriots that went through all the transcripts and pulled out 9 different times that a reporter said, what do you think about the tight end in Miami? And Bill Belichick started it by correcting them and saying, well, he's more of a big wide receiver. He pulled 9 different times where that's how it started. Well, we think he's more a big wide receiver. Now he's got the big wide receiver. I'm with you, Fitz. I think you might have him higher than me, but we both have him higher than consensus, I believe, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think you're even higher than
I am higher. As you can tell, I've been thinking about it a little bit. I've been thinking about that one a little bit.
Well, look, that is going to wrap it up for tight ends. And Coop, thanks for coming on. And please plug everything that you're doing. Let everyone know where they can find you and what you got coming up here.
Yeah, man. So it's easy. Follow me at Coop A Fiasco. I tweet everything out that I have. A lot of my articles are free. Some of them are in the draft guide. If I'm buying 2 draft guides this year, I'm getting Fantasy Alarm, I'm getting Fantasy Pros, I'm winning all my leagues. So pretty simple, right, boys?
That's right. Fitzy at Fitz_FF. What do you got coming up here, Fitzy?
We are have rolled out our draft kit for redraft. So check that out. I mean, that's got everything you want, all the analysts, players to target, players to avoid, our draft day cheat sheets, everything you need. And, of course, you can always find the ECR, the expert consensus rankings at Fantasy Pros. That's it. We've got you covered on redraft and dynasty, of course.
Follow me here at Bogman Sports. Of course, I'm on this show. All my rankings are up for Fantasy Pros, and check out In This League where we're doing mock drafts every single week. We did player debates with Debro. We got busts coming up this week as well. So please check that out at Bogman Sports on the Twitter. And that is it for us. And we will see you guys next week. Take it easy, everybody.